Well, good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. Great to have you with us as always, 9 a.m. The storyline today is going to be a lot of fun. I'm Craig Can. Mike Mooney, elevating you, buddy, reaching your peak. Would you believe we've hit 10 episodes of this? 10. You and me today. Jill Bauer is missing, but this is how we started. So we're going back to our roots with some brand new inspiring career conversation. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Hey, so how many episodes do we have to hit before we get like full syndication? Don't we get those benefits here on Facebook Live?
I would love that. I just moved into a new place, as you can tell, maybe a little bit echoey as I get going here, but I'm doing all live streaming. I'm not doing cable. So kind of that's what we're doing here. We're live streaming, and maybe there'll be a syndication opportunity for a live stream. We hope so. It's been a lot of fun. So what you been up to, buddy?
Oh man, it's been a wild week of good things. Besides getting two of our kids back to college, still they're in that virtual space but moving kids either into apartments or from apartments to storage units, then into apartments. It's been a wild week on the family front, but all's good there. And then, man, on the work front, things are going well. Just continuing to connect with more people, which is the great part and segue into today's conversation and making that time to do so. But then also, man, I'll tell you the work around reputation and the conversations I've been having with people and developing content, and it's been a lot of fun. I think again, it's a lot to speak to continuity and consistency, right? And there were days, like we were talking earlier, where things are just pulling us in so many different directions that when you can focus in and focus on getting a few things done, man, it's rewarding,
Yeah, it's been a really fun week for me too. I'm getting excited. Season 2 of the podcast that you were a part of in season 1 is coming up August 17th. And 2 new sponsors have jumped on board, which is
good for you.
Pretty exciting. So I got a big meeting with that coming up a little bit later today. And then on the topic of networking, doing a virtual keynote coming up in December, which should be a whole lot of fun. I mean, that's the world we live in now, right? You and I are used to being on a stage or walking in front of people doing our thing. And now a lot of it is via this. So
I got to tell you though, Craig, it's funny. When we were moving our kids in over the weekend, my wife and I were staying at a hotel, and I was going down for coffee on Saturday morning, and there was a meeting room off to the side, and the doors were open, and there were these 2 women that were in there setting up like for a workshop. And I got to tell you, like as somebody who, gosh, we haven't been able to do that live in so long that I was literally like, I got my coffee and walked over. I'm like, good morning. What are you guys doing? Just excited to see people out there and again, in small ways, still connecting and, facilitating events and things of that nature. So, it's a virtual world for sure. And building that out, but I'm telling you, big opportunities though. Big opportunities.
No question. About to work with a big company on getting their employees comfortable with this little camera right here and understanding that this is not going away. And you don't just use the web for your business. You need to find a way to dominate it within your industry and make it a competitive advantage. So anyway, that's that. Let's talk about what we're going to have today. And let's start with where we were last time. Jill was with us, obviously. And we had a topic of branding via social media. And I really enjoyed that topic because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out a way, all right, how do I do this? How do I win? And so obviously, as you know, we always get questions, and we talked about the opportunity to get engaged with your clients, with your customers, with potential clients, et cetera. And it's like currency, it's like money, it's like revenue, and that's what you want to do. So I want to go to some questions that we got from last week. And I always try to pick, as you know, 1 or 2 that stand out. And this one to me, I think will give us plenty of jumping off points. It's from Melissa in Arizona, who says, what platform is the best social media site to build my brand? I already use Facebook. I do have LinkedIn, but I don't use it as much. Okay, that's Melissa in Arizona. Okay. So I have some thoughts on this, but I'm going to let you go first and share some things with Melissa that you think are important for her to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I just have to say, whenever you read the questions back out with the person, it takes me back to when I was a kid listening to Casey Kasem. This one goes out to Melissa in Arizona, who wrote in. So I think, Melissa, to that question, it really comes down to what are you using it for? The different platforms are focused on different audiences. So LinkedIn is going to be more for professionals and connecting on work-related branding or conversations or information. Facebook a bit as well, because you could have a Facebook business page, but generally that's more social engagement. Right. But aside from that, I think it also comes down to what are you most comfortable using? Which one do you use the best or the most? I think you answered it a little bit when you said, I got Facebook, I have LinkedIn, but don't use it a lot. Yeah. Okay, well then stick with the one that you're using more frequently and that you enjoy and helps really share the message that you want to send to people.
Yeah, very much so. And if Jill was a part of this, I think, we talked about this last week, we come at it from different areas, Yeah. She dominates on Facebook. She's got such a great following and uses the platform so well. Now, she doesn't use her personal platform. She built a personality page, a public figure page, which is, what she did for a number of years on television and still does. Mm-hmm. Here's what I would say to Melissa in Arizona. Again, the question, what platform is the best social media site to build a brand? I use Facebook and I have LinkedIn, but I don't use it as much. To me, number one, it depends upon your industry that you're in and who you're trying to provide a service to, who you're trying to engage with. I would say number one, Melissa, don't use your personal Facebook. If you're going to do that, create some sort of an industry page, or if you're not going to use Facebook as the platform to, connect with all your neighbors and your high school friends and all that, you just have to balance that a little bit. I try not to put a lot of my work on my personal Facebook page. I use it on my Can Advisory Group page. With that, LinkedIn is such a big tool. I would say that Instagram has become even more so. But as far as LinkedIn, the first thing that I would say to Melissa is work on your profile. It is hugely important. And you want to have some buzzwords, some catchphrases, some things that people could search and find you for. That's really important. But if I was going to start on that, if I had no social media presence whatsoever, I would probably go grab a digital marketing coach. Google that and just see who comes up, somebody in your area that has some expertise, just to have a conversation or connect with a few of those folks on LinkedIn. Look and see what they do. Do the same thing on Twitter or a social media marketing agency. Any of those that could share some insight, because you've got to figure out what your differentiator is, kind of what your strengths are, what value you add in the marketplace. All those things are really important for you to put out there. The other thing that I would share, and Mike, you could probably speak to this too, because I think we both have it. To Melissa, to everybody out there, own your own domain. Yeah. If you can do that. In other words, I have craigcan.com. You have mikemooney.com. Is that correct?
I do. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So what I would do if I was anybody, and I've had an agent for years because of television and media, so they manage craigcan.com. Someday I'll probably take that over for myself, but create a one-page site. You don't need 10 pages, but create a one-page site that allows you the ability, if we're just getting started, to be able to post blogs, to be able to, connect with people, to show some of what you do and post some things. And I would blog some of your professional thoughts on what it is that you do and start connecting with people. And the last thing that I would say to Melissa is use Twitter. If for nothing more, be a lurker. Look for some of the things within your industry. Follow some things like, I'll just make a couple up that I follow. Inc., Entrepreneur. I get my news through USA Today or CNN or whatever, but I try to follow people within the communication space, within the social media marketing space, et cetera, and just see what they do, see what they post. So that's what I would say.
And I might use the word explorer versus lurking. That just sounds a little creepy.
Better. Yeah. Better.
But your point though is well taken. Is that the idea of branding in yourself? It's a contact sport. Right? You have to make contact, and whether it's finding people that you want to connect with and go ahead and comment, engage with them, follow them. I mean, these are all the little simple steps that you can be taking. The other suggestion I would make, and this is from my own experience, and this is exactly what I did as I was sort of charting my pivot, my career pivot, was I started building my social brand and presence way before I needed to flip the switch to say, here's what I'm doing and here's who I am. I was thinking ahead of the fact. So I started to, and literally, this was like a year and a half before I actually made the pivot. I started looking at, what am I posting? Is the content and the messaging that I'm posting consistent with what I want people to know and see with my brand when I go out? Because people will, I mean, think about it. You go on an Instagram page and you look at the post, cool. But then what do? You start scrolling backward to see what else is on there. So, to go from, for example, or in my case, I'll use that, if I was moving toward this area of speaking and coaching and the power of reputation, and I had pictures of my dogs and my kids on my feed for years, and suddenly I jump out and here's reputation stuff, it just felt inconsistent. So I had to start paving the road, making the path, so that there was that sense of, no, I have been talking about this. This is a passion point for me. I do have a website. I have been blogging. My LinkedIn profile and information aligns with all of this, because people want to see, we talked about it last week, the idea of social proof. They're going to hear something, but then they're going to look for the backup. They want to see, have you really been putting it into action?
Yeah. I love the social proof line. And you've talked about that a lot before. So great question from Melissa. And
Thank you, Melissa.
Welcome your questions each and every week. Today's topic is the value in networking. And this one's something that you came up with. I like it a lot. The topic of connection and staying connected. We're going to kind of make this in a way, Mike, and hopefully Jill will join us next week, almost like a two-part series, if you will. And I'll get to what our topic is next week in just a little bit. But the value in networking, okay? And I think we need to start with what networking really is, because I think what a lot of people, in business do is they'll collect business cards and they meet people and then they don't do much with them. And there's a lot of different strategies about how to build a network, but there are also a lot of key tools that you can use through some of these social media sites to build that network. And so the first thing that I would say is I would go through kind of your list of the places that you've worked. All right. If we're starting this topic of networking, and I would try to find the 2 or 3. Don't arm yourself with 20 names from every place you went. The 2 or 3 people that you felt like either you influenced or they influenced you. Why? Because if later on down the line you needed a job or you were furloughed in today's world and you needed a connection, you want to find somebody that you've made an impact that could speak to the value you bring, or that gave you something so you could help them in return. I think that's important. And the other thing that I would do is I would look at some of the client base of companies that you've worked with, and I would pick a handful. I would start, 10, 12 people. And if you can start with something that's manageable and then build off of that for your tree, I think you're on to something. That's my take. I think we get in trouble in saying, oh, I've got this great network. And believe me, I've got a drawer right here in my desk with business cards, and I need to go through them, because somebody once told me, the minute you grab a card, when you go back to your hotel room or you do whatever, write down how you would remember them or what they, so it's fresh. And then it's either a keep pile or it's a discard. But I don't just grab cards from everybody or hand them out all the time. I think it's important. And I always tell people this, Mike, and I think I say to them for a reason, hey, here's the scoop. happy to give you a card. Let's stay connected. The only thing I ask is let's stay connected. Like if I feel comfortable enough to hand somebody that card and not just start passing them out like they're, hey, please take my card.
Well, like you have them in a Pez dispenser.
Exactly. You nailed it. So that's what I would say. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, you got me almost in a sip of coffee there, man.
That's good.
So my thoughts on networking, I agree with all those points. I'm gonna pivot a little bit on the at least from my opinion and approach. And I believe that networking comes down to a couple of things. One, it's your style, how you go about doing it. There are people I know we've all seen throughout our lives and careers that are kind of very much in your face in networking and putting the card in your face or the material, or you've got people who are like really standoffish and you don't know how to approach them. So I think like your style, you have to understand like what's comfortable for you. How do you best, walk into a room or tell your story or engage with others? Because we have to recognize that there are some people who are extroverts. And I would say, Craig, you and I are probably, I won't say probably, we're very comfortable walking into a room where we may not know a person, but walking in with a smile on our face and, ready to go out and meet some new people. There are other people who
introduce, make that first connection.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have other people who are a little more introverted and would not want to be in that situation. So you have to understand where you're coming from first and foremost, and not think that, the only way to network is to be in a large room with people. To your point, Greg, it is starting from places that are closer to home, people that know you, and then expanding out from there.
Yeah.
The other thing I would suggest or say, and this has worked for me over the years, is to mix the digital and the analog, meaning that social media and networking is great online, and it can get your scale up and connecting with broader, groups and pools of people. But we can't forget the analog. And the analog is, simply, handwritten notes, have your note cards, right?
Yeah.
Make that phone call, reach out to people. We can't forget the power of that one-to-one connection.
Man, that's a fantastic point. I'm looking over to my right because on my desk here, I've got a bunch of cards that I, had. It's stationary basically, but it's business stationary, and I'll always try to send something. The problem we're in the world today is like, let's say I want to send somebody a gift for being on my podcast. Okay. And I don't have their address. So then I got to go, all right, hey, could I get your address? I want to send you something. And away goes a bit of the authenticity of the surprise. You know what I'm saying? Like we live in a world of emails and we live in a world of texting. And yet we want to send, and we want to do the right thing. And it's important to connect in that regard, in my opinion. I love what you just said, because the analog is super important today. Super important.
Well, and people rely too heavily on just the technology, just the superficial, hey, I'd like to connect with you. Hey, I really liked, commenting and things of that nature. We're wired to have deeper relationships, and that's the power of networking. That's why it is so vital and valuable, not only in our professional worlds, but my goodness, in our personal lives too, because it's fulfilling on two sides, right? Of people that we're getting to know and meet and learn about, things that are coming our way, and ways that we can help others.
Well, I put a couple of things together that I'd like for you to comment on.
Okay.
And the first one is about the industry impact of networking. Now, we could actually start and say, okay, what's the definition of networking? And to me, that's building a roster of people that you can help and you can believe that they would add value as well. People that show you that they've got a little heart for what you do and that you would want to assist as well. Now, when it comes to industry, the more you offer to others, in my opinion, the greater the network will become in size. But you got to offer things to people. The less you offer and put out there via social media, or, to your point, going into a cocktail party or a business function, the less you offer by going up to people or whatever, the less reason that anybody would want to have you in their network. So I think that's really important. Can you share some thoughts on how you see it via industry and the tools that come from being a good networker?
Yeah, I would definitely say that in today's world, it is about putting things out there, putting yourself out there, putting your thoughts out there, your ideas, sharing other resources. I mean, it's funny. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves that we've got to be these amazing thought leaders. And while there is great value in being a thought leader, there's also value in sharing other people's content too, and adding your comments to that.
Great point. Right? Great point.
Build on that, and that's a strategy I use with a number of my coaching clients when we talk about building their brands, especially on the professional side, is you don't have to come up with everything. No, all right. No. But you will build, relational and equity and value by sharing other people's and tagging them in that, putting your own spin.
That's a great point, Mike. That's a great point. Yeah. When I do Twitter, and I'm addicted. I read.
I see your stuff on there all the time.
and I always, and I coach this as well. Retweeting, sure, there's times to retweet, but retweet with comment, furthering the conversation, adding something to the conversation, bringing your value to the table. And we discussed this last week. You want people to find you knowable, worthy of being known for whatever it is you bring to the table. I think that's important. Very much so to further the conversation and not just, put it out there. So here's something else. And this is right up your alley. And this is about brand. I believe the more you network with others, the bigger your brand becomes, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do. I mean, I think we have to get back to the idea that some people are uncomfortable saying, I've got a brand. Well, yes, you do, whether you like it or not, you do. That's your reputation. That's what people say about you, how you carry yourself, how you conduct your business, the way you go about interacting with people, et cetera. So the more that you network with others, the bigger your brand becomes. The less you network with others, if you say, it's not that important to me, the more anonymous your brand remains. Now, why would that be so important? To me, it's important in a lot of ways, not just in the job that you currently have, but in the job that you might hope becomes an opportunity that could come your way. In other words, if you sit on the sideline, or to use the Mike Mooney thing, if you sit on pit road and don't put your car out there in traffic, right? You're not going to get anywhere. You can't win the race by sitting in the garage.
Well, you're not even in the race.
That's right. So you've got to be willing to put yourself out there. Now, what this requires when we're building brand and when we're networking is it requires you to spend a little personal time and figure out, okay, where do I want to go with this? Agreed?
Oh, no, I agree 100%. It's not only your message and what it is that you want to say, because I'm a big believer. And again, from my own personal experience, Craig, and I know from yours as well, we both were in good, I'll use the word air quotes, stable positions, but we were in places that we could have been, for the next 20 years doing the same work and talking about this idea of, wow, I want to be a speaker. I want to go out and coach, or I want to go out and write a book. And until you put the ball in play, you're not doing it. So it's much like that with networking. You can say, I'd love to have a great network and expand it, but if you aren't going first, if you aren't putting something out there, nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know what you have to offer. So I absolutely agree. I also think that there are some, again, it's going to be kind of tactical, right, in some ways, but there's a strategy that a friend of mine told me about, and I think it was just brilliant. And he did this for his business. He said every Friday. I'm
taking notes, Mike.
Yeah, do that. Copious notes, please. He said every Friday, I close my office at noon. We stop work at noon every Friday. And I'm like, wow, that is fantastic. Your staff must love it. Did they all go home after that? And, would they use it to help them recharge for the weekend? He said, no, they're still there. But from 12:30 to 5 o'clock, they're on the phone.
Yeah.
And they're calling people that are in their network, in their friend group. They're calling people they haven't spoken to in 3 months, 6 months, a year or longer, and just talking with them, reconnecting with them, getting, and I said, man, how is that working for your business though? And he said, Mike, after about 4 months of doing this, I started tracking where we were getting and when we were getting most of our new business. And he said, you know what we found out? We were getting the majority of our new business between 1 and 5 on Fridays because people were connecting. They were talking. He said, I can't tell you how many times one of our people would hear, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. This thing popped up. I mean, haven't you had that happen as well? I have, where I've called someone and they're like, oh, this is crazy timing. I was just thinking of you, or this opportunity came up, or this problem came up, and you can help me solve it.
Yeah.
So here is the way that I took that idea and I've made it a little more practical is this. If we each carved out, and again, this is really tactical, man, but I believe that there's power in the process and the tactics, okay? And this is going to help your personal brand and your networking. If we carved out 90 minutes a week, okay, and broke that into 3 30-minute blocks, okay? So just think of just finding 30 minutes in 5 days, right, that you can put into play and call 3 people. So 3 half-hour conversations. If you did that consistently over a year, you would have made over 155 reconnects
12 a month roughly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just shows like the compounding power of doing it, putting something out there.
And Mike, I think the important thing about that is to make those contacts, to make those phone calls, to have those conversations when you're not looking for anything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll give you a story on that. When I was at Golf Channel, and a big week, by the way, PGA Championship. I'm looking forward to Sirius XM tonight on the post game.
Man, you're a machine. You were saying you're on the air from 10 to 12 midnight?
10 to midnight tonight because it's on the West Coast tonight and tomorrow night. But I love primetime golf. So anyway, when I was at the Golf Channel and I was a reporter on the PGA Tour for a number of years early in my career there, late 90s, early 2000s, you'd walk up to a player, let's say a big name player, and most of the time they immediately thought, oh boy, here we go. He wants something from me. He wants an interview. He wants this.
Yeah.
And what I learned and what I tried to do, the way I tried to carry or conduct my business was I would go up to players just to say, what's going on? How you doing? When I didn't want anything, I didn't need anything. That way they didn't always think I was going to ask them for something. So to my point on networking, I think you have to get people comfortable with the fact that you might call just to check in, just to say how you doing, and not be pushing something at them for them to buy or whatever. And I always go back to this one career coach that I had. She was terrific. And I'm so grateful that I spent, a couple of months with her on the phone. And she always told me that, and this was when I was starting Can Advisory Group.
Yeah.
Use your phone calls as research projects.
Oh man. I like
Ask questions, be inquisitive.
Yeah.
Don't bombard people with, hey, could you do this for me? Or, hey, here's what I can do for you. Just listen, just ask, just make them the star of the show. And that's always stuck with me when it comes to networking and the power and the value of that, actually.
Well, listen, man, and it's so true because people can sniff out. I mean, we've all got the BS meter up when people are. No, it's true. I mean, it's true though. I mean, we all know it. I mean, look, I'll give you an example here. There was a guy that I used to work with. I left the job. I hadn't heard from him in 2 years. Okay, I haven't heard from him in 2 years. The first time he reaches out, I find out that he had left the company that we were with and he wants to get together. Now I know exactly what it is that he wants, and then from there on out, every time he'd reach out, it was, hey, would you do this? Hey, could you share that? Hey, what do you think about this? There was never one time, and this isn't about ego and about, oh, Mike, he didn't ask about you, but there was never one time that he said, man, how are you doing? Yeah. Is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah.
I had another really good buddy of mine. He said, man, you can always tell what the person wants by the third point in the conversation. And I said, well, I don't understand. Explain that to me. He said, okay, well, think about it. Get the phone call, you pick it up. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Point 1. Okay, good. So how's the family? It's point 2. And then what they're going to, either it's going to be, hey, what can I do for you? Or I saw this, how can I help you? Or that's the third point. Or it's going to be, hey, can you help me with this? So it's like, it's always the third piece of the conversation when you know what they really are asking and what they're really about,
we in the broadcasting business, I used to use the term, and I would tell tell this to my kids as they would get older. I said, all news can't be local.
Oh,
All right?
wow.
All
Wow.
news cannot be local, meaning
Wow.
it
I
can't
got to
just
write that
be
down.
about you.
Yeah.
And you've got to show people that they're important. And they used to make fun of me. I'd drop them off at school and I'd say, have a great day, but do me a favor, make it great for somebody else as well. And there's, oh, Dad, it's such a, tacky line. I was like, that's the understanding of making an impact on other people too. It can't just be about you,
Right.
And I think that's important in networking. All news, not local. And I know a lot of people like that. And when people lose their job, or all of a sudden then they come all after you, And to your point, you cannot wait until that happens to start building this network. You want to deliver stuff in advance of that.
Exactly. Like we've said before, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. So it's no different in building relationships. And there are a lot of things that go along with that. Again, as I've experienced over the years in networking, I really believe it's really where you're coming from in that space. Are you going into a networking event or a call with the intention of I need versus I could? Meaning I could serve, I could help.
Absolutely.
I liked your definition earlier of networking. And mine, I always look at it as, my network is full of people that I serve gladly, and those who would gladly serve me, when needed. And I feel like, to me, that gets back to intention, the intentionality of why we're connected. And even like on LinkedIn, there are people, and this is kind of frustrating sometimes. And I don't know if you may have experienced this, or the people who are watching, where you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, you send a note like, hey, I'd like to connect and to get to know you a little bit better. I see we have these connections. I see we have these things in common. Would love to know more. And they hit accept to join your group, but then you don't hear a thing.
There's nothing on the back
nothing
end.
more, and that shows me that, unfortunately, with LinkedIn and others, that people have this idea that quantity is stronger than quality.
Yeah.
The more people I have in my sphere of influence, I can become an influencer because I have 50,000, 90,000. Okay, but what's the quality of those relationships?
Yeah, that goes back to, am I just collecting business cards, or am I collecting relationships? There's a difference. So you brought up LinkedIn. I'm going to tell a story. This happened just this week. And to me, it's really interesting. And I'll be honest, I cannot remember if it was me that reached out because I saw a bunch of stuff that I really thought was compelling and interesting, or if it was the opposite way. But nonetheless, we connected. And it was this person that I thought had great value, really was interested. And I was interested in getting to understand what she did, how she did it. And it was all about the psychology of words and how it can grow revenue and how you can get people's attention doing that. So basically a social media marketing expert, but using digital and using words and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I reached out and said, hey, I'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to know more about your world that you live in. And that's how I do it. I'd love to, have a conversation and just hear more about what you do. Hopefully this connection can provide some value for both of us, et cetera. What I got back was, absolutely love to do that. What's the topic we would be discussing so that, we could do that, and wanted a specific time and a specific situation. And I said, there's a couple things. I'd like to learn more about what you do. I'd like to share a couple of things. I'm working on a book and I have some ideas, and I wanted to bounce a few things off you, pick your brain, but also, really kind of understand. And potentially, I didn't say this right off the top, was going to potentially vet her as a podcast guest. Sure. Anyway, what I got back was, I really don't have time for a lot of, side conversations. I'm very busy with my clients. What she was saying was her time is money driven only. In other words, I could sign up and pay her for her service for the consulting or the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, okay, we both try to provide some value here. I think we could help each other out. Long story short,
Yeah.
I determined, you know what, this isn't going to work out if it's that hard to make a connection with somebody and just have a simple conversation. I wasn't looking for anything free. I wanted to get to know somebody, and I think that's important. And so, you know what, I unfollowed and I eliminated the connection. And I also said, I was hoping to potentially have you as a podcast guest. And she said, right now I'm just too busy. I have too many clients and I don't have time for a podcast. I looked up, some of her social media stuff, and she had 267 followers on Twitter. Now, look, to me, Twitter followers is not the be all tell all, but at the same time, I think I could have added some value to her to having her as a guest. And I think we would have had a fun conversation. I was excited to learn about this strategy and the psychological impact of words. My point is this: you have to just allow some time, like you said, to just talk with people. And see where it goes. Be strategic about who you're going to do that with. I'm not saying do it with everybody, but find people that you think could help you, but that you could help as well. And I think that's the most important thing to me about networking. What value will I bring, and how can we have a fun conversation? I hope I don't throw somebody under the bus like that, but to me, LinkedIn is such a valuable opportunity and a tool that we can use to build. I've gotten a lot of business off of it when I wasn't even trying. I just want to meet some people and learn. I mean, like, we never stop learning, right? So there's people out there that you can get a lot from. I've learned a ton from you.
Well, and vice versa. It really comes down to, again, how you're going into it. Are you looking at this from a transactional standpoint or a relational standpoint? And I believe that there is a delicate balance in between, because, again, as people like you and I who do, the reality is that, as solopreneurs and the work that we do, our time has value, and we can find ourselves in a situation where, and I'm sure you have it too, where people reach out and say, "Hey, I'd love to get your thoughts on things," and that's one of like 25 people in a week, and you're like, "Gosh, I can't do all of that." Yeah. The point is, where do you make networking a priority in your day? That's where it gets back to the idea of carving out time, making it sacred time to say, this is, I'm going to balance this. I have my work that I have to get done, but networking is also a value to what I need to grow my network, to grow my value, to grow my brand, to grow my client base. So I think it's finding that healthy balance in there.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So in short, I think the most important thing that we can share with people is this, and I'll let you put a wrap on your thoughts.
Yeah.
Number one, don't wait. Start now. Do it strategically. Find platforms that work for you. Put yourself out there. And the biggest takeaway I have from today is something we both agree on. And I try to use my week in blocks of time as well. I try to do all my one-on-one consulting like this on a certain day for a certain number of hours. That way I'm locked in and I'm focused on it. So I go, all right, on Mondays is when I do my consulting. Let's carve out time. I know that I have, radio opportunities or obligations. And then I have, in a normal world, I'd be traveling, speaking, or doing workshops. But then to your point, I always try to either travel back on a Friday if I was traveling, or have Friday. It's funny that you mentioned Friday as a networking day, 1 or 2 times a week. Now I go back to that book. It's called 18 Minutes, and it's all about time management. It's really, really good. But you have to do that. So to all of you out there, make networking a priority. Don't try to amass 1,000 people. If you have a network of 50 good ones, great. But they have to be people that you would be willing to help as much as you want them to do something for you. Yeah. It can't be a one-way street. It's got to be network news, not local news, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that local news. I'm gonna actually write that. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that for sure. I'm going to put a little flip on this, man, just because we've talked a lot about what we can do to connect with others. How about we look at networking also as being a conduit in connecting others? So something that I love to do is try to find ways within your network to connect like-minded people, or connect with people that one has a problem, one has a solution. There's fewer things I get satisfaction from in connecting people when they're not expecting it, or, reach out, hey, would you mind if I connect you with this person? But I think there's power in that as well to build your brand and your networking.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a guy named Dwayne Cummings, and he founded the Speakers Guild of America, among many other things. Been CEO, was a guest on my podcast, and he connects people like nobody's business. He is amazing at it, and he really likes helping other people. So the value in networking: connect, stay connected, build connections for others. I think that's important.
I love it.
Guess what? Here's our topic for next time. And as I said, it's kind of a two-week deal here. The lost art of connection, which is your most important career tool. Now, you might say, well, wait a second, that's what you guys just talked about. Sort of. We were talking about networking and building your network. What this is going to be about is, how do we connect with others on a personal basis? I'll give you an example. When I do my workshops, it's not a focus on sales. I talk to a lot of sales teams, a lot of marketing teams. It's smiles over sales. Smiles over sales. How do we connect with somebody? Because they're going to buy you first, and then they might buy the product. And I say might buy the product. It's not a guarantee. So we're going to talk about that being one of your most important career tools, the art of connecting with other people. How do you do it? So to the point you made, when you go into that room, how do you do that? When you have limited time on the phone, how do you make a connection that's lasting, et cetera? Looking forward to that topic.
Yeah, same here.
Yep, that'll be fun. Okay, here we go. This is something that we've talked about each and every week, and there's Jill sandwiched between us. Woman. What we've been offering is this opportunity to go online with us, and hopefully later go in person with us, because we're really excited about this opportunity. We call it Present to Win, and it's 2 hours with Can Advisory Group with Mike, Jill, and myself. You just have to pick a sales or marketing team in your organization. We give you a power-packed interactive webinar, not us talking at you, but us talking with you on many of the topics we've discussed, a transformational experience that you all will be able to use. And Mike, I'm going to let you kind of speak to this, because, man, I know we're both excited about it in these virtual workshops, and some of the benefits that companies would get by involving us, really.
Yeah, and what I love about this, Craig, especially in the title, Present to Win, a lot of times people think that solely I have to get up and present something. No, that's one part of it. And that's the beauty of what we're bringing between Craig and Jill and myself, is that this is really about presenting not just you, but your organization, the brand, your story, your product. How do you present to win? And for organizations who want a more inspired sales team, you want to build, authentic brand ambassadors and influencers, and empowering your team to be able to stand up and stand out in a way that is going to best reflect your company, your product, your story, your reputation. This is an experience, I'm telling you, man, that I'm excited about, not just because I'm a part of it, but because of the content and the way that it's constructed. Yeah. Like you said, Craig, we're not talking at people. This is immersive. This is interactive. And for those business owners or leaders or people that are looking for ways to keep their teams engaged and fired up at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty, people are a little reluctant to be reaching out, we're going to equip your team with the tools and the process and ways that are going to definitely make an impact on your business and your company. I'm thrilled, man.
Yeah, you nailed it right there, talking about presenting to win, and it's not just standing in front of a group or delivering virtually here as we're doing right now. But I am going to help people and coach them on what I call the power of presentation. You're going to talk about driving brand presence and how you present the brand and get people to follow a brand, the importance of reputation. Jill, she talks about what she calls backyard connection, backyard relationships, et cetera, all in sales. But really, the most important thing is we're not talking about selling product. We're talking about selling you. Yes. And we are all salespeople. You'll also learn, folks, on how to become the green shoe amidst all of that. And it's just going to be a fun experience. So I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a few that are already talking to us, and we hope you'll do the same. info@canadvisory.com to schedule your conversation with us. So with that, Mike, man, I hope you have a great day. Great week,
man.
Rest of it. I know what you're doing tomorrow. You're networking,
Yeah,
And you're
that's
carved
right.
out a little bit of time. And to all of
Yeah.
you out there, I hope this was a good topic for you. Just do what Mike says. Pick 3 people on Friday or today. Spend an hour and a half. Carve that into your time. Make it worthwhile for you. But most importantly, make it worthwhile for them. Be a listener, be engaged, and try to help provide some value to others. That's where your network grows. That's where your network begins. Mike, final thought.
Man, I can't even top that. I'm just going to say, everyone have a great week. Remember to invest in yourself, take care of yourself, but then also remember to invest in others and take care of others too. So have a great rest of the week.
Yeah. To all of you, thanks again. We really appreciate the time that you jump online and join us each week. We call it elevating you, and that's the goal, is to try to help you go to the next level. We don't have all the answers, but we do try to provide some conversations, and we hope we'll get some questions that we'll talk about next week. You all have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. We'll talk again. Take good care.
Cheers.